Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of My Dad versus World Cinema.
Me being his dad.
Yeah, well, I was going to introduce you, but
Okay, go
introduce
ahead.
yourself. My name's Elliot Cohen.
And I'm Philip Cohen, his dad.
Yep. And this is our journey through world cinema. Because
What a journey.
it's been a long journey so far. We've done one film.
Oh,
We talked about M by Fritz Lang last week.
very good.
Yeah, that was a great film, great podcast, wasn't it?
It was so good.
We started off with a bang.
Yeah.
Go on, it was so good. What were you going to say?
I was going to say it was so good that we decided it was worth having another try with another film,
Yeah.
which we did.
Well, which we're doing.
Well, we watched the film though, didn't we?
Oh, we did watch the film.
Yeah, so we watched the film and we're doing another one of these podcasts.
Yes, exactly. So
We won't be deterred.
no, but if you're new to our podcast, the whole idea of it is you're a newbie to world cinema.
Absolutely.
So I'm taking you through some of my favourite films.
Yeah, I'm a Philistine.
Yeah. Oh, that's clever. Your name's Phil. Yeah.
Yeah, a Philistine.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to broaden your horizons, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to show you that world cinema is not as inaccessible as you.
You're trying
think
to
it might be.
coax me out of the sheltered life I
Yeah.
would add.
That Hollywood blockbuster life you live in.
Yeah. Not that I have a Hollywood blockbuster life, but
no,
all the films that I've seen up to now have tended to be Hollywood
Yeah.
blockbusters.
all 5 of them. And so yeah, we're back with another episode.
Yeah.
Before we get into it though, I just want to check in with you. How are you doing?
I'm fine,
you fine?
actually. Yeah, I'm up and down all over the country,
Yeah.
avoiding all sorts of viruses. Wiping
All
down.
sorts. I thought there was just one major virus.
There's a
at the
couple of
moment.
other viruses I've tried to
Oh.
avoid.
Oh dear.
Don't tell mum. Don't tell mum,
no,
whatever you do.
I won't. She definitely won't be listening to this.
Yeah, so I'm big at the moment. You know, I'm Mr. Safety. So I've been buying masks. Not
That's
because I have.
That's for the safety of others, so they don't have to look at you.
I've been buying masks. I've been buying cleansing gel.
Yeah, we are of course talking about the
Coronavirus, and we're not making light of it.
No, this is just genuinely what
This
you've
is
been up to.
genuinely what I've been up to. So just taking precautions.
Yeah, but taking us back to Phil.
Was it okay if I put my biohazard, my hazmat suit on while we're doing the podcast?
No, definitely not. Although this is contagious.
Well, we're hoping it's going to go viral.
Yeah, there you go. Oh,
Ding
God.
dong.
I've lost what I was saying now.
Yeah.
But keeping it on film though, we did watch Uncut Gems the other
Yeah,
night.
that was really good.
Uncut Gems, the new Safdie brothers film, starring one and only Adam Sandler.
And Adam Sandler, if you'd already written off his career, as most people, I think, I nearly lost my. I nearly choked. I think maybe Adam Sandler's got some sort of like Darth Vader.
Oh yeah,
You know,
from afar he's choking
what
you
is
out.
it? What's that famous line? Your lack of faith is.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Yeah, maybe that's what Adam Sandler's thinking to himself.
Yeah.
But he was very good in it. Oh
Yeah.
God, it was a good film. Another example of our friends at Netflix putting money behind a project that, to be honest with you, would never see the light of day in a cinema.
And when we say our friends at Netflix, they don't sponsor us in any way.
Not yet, hopefully.
But we want that sponsor.
Yeah, please.
we want to be like the next comedians in cars getting coffee,
Yeah,
but it's just
so yeah, we want
whatever this
sponsorship
is
of all
called.
kind.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great film.
I'm prepared to take my jacket and my shirt off if it helps.
But yeah, we'll get this thing back on track.
I mean, I had a letter from Harvey Weinstein. He said, "Look, Phil, anytime you're in, if you just want to pop by, take your
God.
shirt off."
He's in an absolute state at the moment. Did you see him going
He
in?
looks terrible.
Did you see him going into court?
Yeah,
And he's like, that's put on, isn't it?
I'm going to do that. The next time I get a parking fine, I'm going to go in with my Zimmer frame, and I'm going to look wretched.
But who's looking at that? You know, you're seeing him on the news, like climbing up the stairs, thinking, "Oh, poor
But they
guy."
used to do that. But that's all. That's your typical Nazi war criminal.
Oh God!
Seriously, that's the defence.
This,
What you do
this
is
is only the second episode of the podcast, and we've mentioned Nazis twice.
That's the thing is if you ever get, which I don't think you will because you're not being involved, but if you ever do get pulled up for any form of war crime, you mustn't go in looking sprightly.
No,
No, don't
like
go in.
I'm going to win this one.
Yeah, they're not going to get me. You can't go into the courtroom
No.
looking pretty toned, suntan, and when they read out and said you're responsible for killing 200 million people, you can't go, yeah, but look at look at the body. Look. You've got to go in looking frail.
Yeah.
So people look at you and feel like, oh, he could never do that.
Yeah.
He's a nice old man. So that's what you got to do.
So again, that's your plan when you get a parking fine.
Why do you think I look like this? I'm really 35.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That would make you 7 when you had me. That math doesn't work.
Anyhow, this film that we're going to watch.
Yes.
Well, we talked about Uncut Gems. It's fantastic.
Uncut Gems. that's the porno version, isn't it?
Yeah, Uncut
A load of guys.
Yeah, Jim, and he's uncut. Yeah,
This
there's
podcast-
a whole porn connotation on that. But no,
Yeah.
Adam Sandler. Well, Adam Sandler.
We've derailed this podcast before it's even
honestly,
started.
it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
Please rescue us.
But yeah, so today we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about another world cinema film.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say Another World first, but go on.
No. This film is completely different to Uncut Gems, isn't it?
Uncut Jim.
No, but Uncut Gems is like edge of your seat anxiety thrill ride, isn't it?
Yeah, like my life.
This film is definitely not that, though, is it?
No, it isn't.
So the film we're going to talk about is El Sur, directed by Victor Erice, who I happen to have a copy again on show.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this. I mean, if this is not production values, I don't know,
I know.
what is.
To be honest, I can't tell if the light's reflecting off it. Can you even see what it is?
I've got an idea for the next time. We need a little light. You need to shine a light on it. Just like you're shining a light on me.
Let's dip into the production budget and we'll get a new light.
I think $5 maybe, £5.
Yeah.
I think we do that. Go on.
But anyway, yeah, I've got the Criterion Blu-ray there. But this is a Spanish film from the 80s, if you're not familiar.
So
You definitely weren't familiar, were you?
I wasn't familiar at all. I just about know where Spain is on the map.
Yeah. And to be honest, the Spain in this film is not the Spain that you'd probably know of anyway. It's not sunny beaches. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not Benidorm.
No, because the Spain I would know would have been in a brochure.
Yeah.
And it would have an unfinished apartment block or hotel, or it would have a hotel that hadn't even been built, which is usually what happened in Spain.
Yeah.
But no, I had no clue, never watched, and after having done the German angle, as I would call it, with Fritz Lang and M, this was my first foray into Spanish film.
We're travelling all around Europe.
Oh, yeah.
This is the European
We've got the
kick-off to the podcast.
What do you call it? What's that thing you have? Eurorail.
Yeah.
This is like my Eurorail journey.
We're interrailing.
Interrail. Oh, yeah. That's the one.
Except we're not actually going anywhere. We're just staying here and watching films.
Yes, because we're quarantined.
Yeah.
And not
of the 5 viruses you've got.
Yeah, I'm literally a walking biohazard.
Oh, yeah. And just a hazard in general.
Yeah.
So, yeah, El Sur. So, you knew nothing about this film?
Nothing. In fact, when you said we're going to watch El Sur, it was 2 things. Is it a film about ulcers?
No.
Or is it Elsa from Frozen?
No.
Neither of those.
No, definitely not.
Not a clue. Didn't mean anything to me.
Does it mean something to you now, though?
It's left a deep impression.
Oh.
I think it's when you threw the case at me.
Yeah, it's left an impression in your head.
It hit me on the head. No, great film. I mean, it was something that with a lot of these films that you keep bringing up and you keep saying, look, we're going to watch this film. My initial reaction, I have to be quite honest with you, is, oh, God. Because I don't normally watch foreign films of any kind.
First of all, you have to read subtitles.
Yeah.
Which I understand.
I'm all right reading them.
You are, actually.
Yeah, but not in time with the film. That's the problem.
No, we have to skip back every scene to.
What was that he just said? Has he killed that person?
But yeah, no.
The film itself was. It was really good because I tell you what I really liked about it. I thought it was going to be a bit of a frenetic film, but it wasn't. It moved at a very slow pace.
It's slow and quiet, but not to a detriment. You know when someone will say a film's slow, that usually means that this film is boring. That's not the case with this one.
No, because when
So-
I watched it, I thought although it was slow, the speed intrigued me
Yeah.
because the speed was intrinsic to the film.
Yeah.
Because if it had run at a pace, the story would have been
well,
over.
that's the thing, it gives you a bit of breathing room. But I'll just give you a bit of a rundown of what the film's about.
Yeah.
So the film is set in northern Spain,
Mm-hmm.
and it follows this little girl called Estrella, who lives with her father and mother. And her father he's a bit of a strange character. He's a doctor, and to her, he's a very mysterious character.
Bit like I am to you.
Exactly, yeah. This film is in many ways, my life.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, it is a film about a relationship,
Mm.
and I think it's about all of us at some point.
Yeah, but there's a mystery though, isn't there? Because it's not just that she doesn't know much about her dad and being an adult because she's a child, but it's introduced that some of her father's relatives come from the south,
Yeah.
and she learns that he fled the south for some mysterious reason, and the film is kind of her exploring why this could have been.
And I think she has different reasons in her head because as the story unfolded, I got a feeling that she was there was a void
Yeah.
where she didn't understand what it was and she was starting to fill it in.
Well, it's what children do. They create stories around people and places.
Yeah.
They try to create links between things.
Yeah.
So in her eyes, her dad was quite a magical guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
Bit like being
yeah.
you.
Also, he was very weird, wasn't he? Like a bit of an
Bit
odd...
like being you.
Yeah. No, but like his character he's quite an odd
Yeah.
guy. And like at times you're watching the film and you kind of want to think, God, he's a bit odd. Is something odd going on here?
Well, what I picked up on was there was one or two scenes where he did things which were slightly mystical.
Yeah. And we're not going to go into spoilers just yet.
No.
Because like in the last episode, we're going to have a bit of a spoiler section towards the end.
Yeah.
And we'll give you a good warning. So if you've not seen Elsa already, don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll give you a fair warning. This is just a bit of a taster. This is hopefully our introduction to the film to you,
Yeah.
and we want to get you to watch it.
So when I watched the film,
Mm-hmm.
it moved slowly, but it had a story that unfolded about how precious this little girl's relationship was with her dad
Mm.
and the things that she perceived about her dad. And it was interesting because her relationship with her mother wasn't the same.
No.
So it was really centralized on a father. There was the backstory to the father, the relatives coming and sort of hinting to different things.
Yeah.
And then the little girl, as she got older, putting two and two together and coming up with the wrong conclusions in some places.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, and I think also it's not necessarily that I don't think she wasn't that close to her mother. I think it's just the way that the film is framed. It's told from her obviously being an adult. It's told with a lot of voiceover. It's like someone retelling their childhood. And it could just be that she's choosing to tell the parts about her and her father. It didn't feel necessarily that her and her mother were cold. It's just those bits were skipped over.
but I thought the great piece it got over was a key thing of every child's relationship with a parent that they love or adore.
Mm-hmm.
They can only see that person in the light or context that they've grown up with. So
Yeah.
that loving father, but none of us see behind the facade
No.
because usually you parent someone you love and you look up to and you look for safety and protection and but understanding the psyche behind a
Yeah.
parent is only something you really discover as you get older yourself.
And there are things that her father does in this film that we just don't know why he did them.
Yeah.
That there are big things he does that, there are questions left because obviously as a child, you don't know what's running through the minds of adults, particularly your parents as well.
The big thing, because when the film finished, we then decided, we'll go and have a look at the Blu-ray extras.
Yeah, the special features.
And then suddenly came across a completely different story
Yeah.
about the making of the film, which completely gave it a context that we
Yeah.
didn't even realise.
And we won't talk about that now, just
We
in
won't
case
talk about
that
that.
spoils the film. But yeah, that gave a new light to the film. And this was the second time I'd watched the film. And the first time I had no clue about this.
I thought it was real. I thought that context suddenly showed the film in a completely different light.
Yeah. And in a way, it elevates the film.
I think
Without talking all lofty and intellectual. I think
Yeah.
it does. It makes me like the film more.
Yeah. And yes, it makes you think about the film in a deeper thing.
So if you were trying to sell this film to someone, okay, just the average Joe. Let's take Mum, for example.
Yeah, well,
she's not called Joe.
Well,
but-
there isn't much sun. Because I would have normally Spain, sun, sand and sex.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I would Spain would be like.
Oh, God.
But no, there's not much sun because I thought the way it was lit was quite dark.
Yeah, it's quite natural looking, isn't it? It's in northern Spain where for a lot of the time it's quite cold and dark and not very sunny.
And probably a Spain that we wouldn't have seen in the past.
You throughout the film you see all of the seasons. You see snow in Spain. As a child going to Spain on sunny holidays, you never thought it even snowed there.
Yeah.
But that's what world cinema can do. You can explore these foreign lands from the comfort of your own sofa.
I enjoyed the film. I didn't think I would have enjoyed it. I mean, in the first 10 minutes, I got into the story. Prior to seeing the film, because when you look at the case, it's a child's face against a moody background.
Well, again,
quite dark.
Again, the case is very dark, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're not going to think, well, this is going to be a motivational, inspirational, emotional film.
No.
But it actually does that. And so as somebody that would normally not watch a film from Spain and wouldn't probably have watched a story like that, there was a bit of an emotional connection because I could think both of my relationship with my dad and the connotations in that, and then looking at what it means to be a father to children.
Well, I think anyone that's had a childhood with parents or guardians around can take something from this film, and that's almost everyone. It's something that will connect with you in one way or another.
So good film. I think in a minute now we'll probably get into the spoiler part.
Yeah, I think we're about ready for some spoilers. But yeah, a great film. Like, it's very understated. So don't go in expecting, car explosions.
Yeah, there's no Marvel comic heroes in it.
No.
So I think it, yet again, a film worth watching, adding to that bucket list.
Was it a surprise?
It was a big surprise because I didn't expect it to. And the surprise is in the context of the film as well as the film itself.
Yeah. So we're 2 for 2 now.
2 for 2.
We've done M. We've done El Sur.
And World Cinema is ahead.
Is beating you.
Yeah. I'm 2-0 down.
Whooping your ass, as they say.
Whoop my ass, man.
So, should we get into some spoilers? Is there anything else you want to say before we...
Not really, because I think there's a lot to say in the spoiler piece.
Yeah. So, if you've not seen it now, go away and watch it, because I'm sure you'll thoroughly enjoy it. And then come back and we'll get into some spoilers now, so you've been warned.
So, here come the spoilers.
Okay, where do you start? See, whenever we get into spoilers, I immediately want to spoil the big thing.
Well, I think let's start at the beginning of the film. So we've got a film that builds primarily relationship, little girl looking up to her dad.
Yeah.
There's a whole mystical thing with when we see right at the beginning the little pendant.
Yeah, he's got like what do you call it?
It's a pendant.
Yeah, but it's like what do hypnotists use? Like
I don't know.
Not like a metronome. There's some name for it.
Yeah.
You know where it ticks back and forth. Anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something mystical about him because he does like the...
Yeah, because he goes out, he gets paid by... Although he's a doctor and he goes out, obviously he's got to go and see his patients. Yeah. But then he gets called upon by his patients to do water divining.
Yeah.
So he uses the 2 sticks, the usual kit water diviners have got to actually find the water in a field. And then he uses that little pendant to actually work out how far down the water is.
Yeah, because it's something to do with magnets, isn't it?
Yeah, hey, I'm not scientific.
Have you ever done any water divining?
No.
No.
Can't see me water divining. I can turn a tap on and off.
No. You barely even drink water. You just drink everything.
Do you know what?
Anything
That's
else?
true, actually. Here's a public service warning. Don't be dehydrated.
No.
Couldn't even say it.
I know. Don't they say the human body is at 70% water?
Oh, it's more than that, I think.
Is it?
Yeah,
So you're a good 50%, I'd say.
I'm good 50%.
Um,
And a lot of water on the brain, I think people would say.
yeah. Is water in the brain good though?
Well, you can cure
'Cause
it with a tap on the head.
Our jokes are just not good this time. Actually, they're never good.
So getting back to the film.
Yeah.
So a good story. So he's doing all this water divining, and right at the beginning of the film, because that scene is out of timeline,
Yes.
the first scene, and we see the build up of the relationship, and then suddenly she thinks that he's having an affair,
Mm.
and she thinks he's having an affair with a famous movie artist.
Yeah.
And then she's following him to cinemas and one thing and another. And of course, what we do sort of find out is he's had a relationship with somebody in the past who happened to look like this famous movie actress.
Mm. Yeah. And that actress, what's her name? French actress. Aurore Clément or something.
Yeah.
That's her, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're looking at me.
I don't. I know.
I watched a German film.
I know. I don't know why.
I watched a Spanish film. I haven't got to the French
I know.
one
I don't know
yet.
why I'm looking at you for knowledge of French
Yeah.
actresses.
I'll just keep nodding.
Yeah. On that point though, about when she follows him to the cinema and she goes in and she watches a bit of that film with her, there's something about that scene that I think it shows that Victor Rice, the director and writer of the film, he must have a love for cinema and going to the cinema, because that scene was quite long as well, and you actually saw a lot of that film within the film. You saw a lot of that. It's funny as well because I don't know if you can recall this, but outside the movie theatre, there was a poster for an Alfred Hitchcock film,
Yes.
Shadow of a Doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Shadow of a Doubt, if you've not seen it, is a film about a young girl whose relative comes to stay with her.
Oh, wow.
But throughout the film, you see early on that the guy that's come to stay with her is actually a murderer. And she is trying to work out the mystery behind this man. That is very much like the relationship between Estrella and her dad in this. And that is definitely on purpose.
And of course, the relative angle there is when his aunt and his mother, her dad's mother, her grandmother, and also aunt come from the south.
Yeah.
And that's where we start to find out a little bit about the backstory and the tension between him and his father.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it explores what that relationship was. And it turns out that her father was on the side of the freedom fighters, and his father was very much on the side of Franco. So when Franco actually won the Civil War, he ended up being ostracized, not only by his community, it appears, but by his father. And his father was very pro-Franco and ended up benefiting from that, it seemed.
Yeah, it seemed like their relationship was probably quite tempestuous.
Yeah.
Because of their political beliefs.
And the other thing is the relationship he had with his mother was quite distant.
Definitely compared to the relationship with
the aunt. Because the aunt was the person that brought him up.
Yeah.
And yet again, when we see Estrella sort of going to bed one night and the aunt comes up and is chatting to her, we see the warmth of that aunt.
Yeah.
She's a very warm person and loving person.
You can tell that she was the motherly figure to him growing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then we get to a scene in the film, which is a climactic scene where she follows him to the hotel.
Yeah.
And she enters the hotel, and there's a wedding reception going on next door.
Yeah, because this is later in the film when it's jumped forward in time because she's older
Yeah,
now, played
yeah.
by a different actress.
Yeah. And at that point, she goes in to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's very much about, he says, oh, come on, what are you doing today? And she says, oh, I've got this today. And he, oh, come on, why don't we go and do this? Why don't we go and do that? And then he goes away for a minute into the next door where this wedding is going on.
Yeah.
And I thought at that point there would be some interaction with the wedding party, or that he would disappear. But then he comes back in and they're playing a particular song that he loved.
Yeah.
And it was the song that was played earlier in the film, where there's a scene where it shows after her first communion, and just talking about that, the first communion sort of part of the film. She was very keen for him to be there at the first communion, and he ended up sort of coming in at the end, and she ran up to him and she was delighted he was there.
But he was very distant, because even in that scene in the church when she's just done a communion, he emerges out of the shadows, doesn't he, at the back of the church, like a strange, shadowy figure.
Yeah.
And just before the communion as well, I don't know if you remember that he was just out in the fields just shooting, wasn't he?
That's right.
And everyone's like, where is he? What's he doing? And her mother tells her to just leave him alone.
So when they had the sort of first communion party back at their house, they played this song, and it was a song where he had a dance with her.
Yeah, because like every good film, there's a dance scene in this.
Yeah, and he danced. The two of them just danced, and it was a very tender moment between the two of them, having this sort of little waltz dance, and all the families clapping. And so later on, when he meets her in the hotel and she's older, suddenly the song starts playing from next door, and he's carried away into a completely different world. And she then sort of gets up and leaves.
Yeah. Well, it's because in the past, he's not been there for her, like at the communion.
Yeah.
So she thinks, oh, you know what, this time he actually wants to spend time with me. I'm going to tell him no.
Yeah.
Just to show him what's what.
But the great line then you see is she leaves, and it says, and that's the last time I ever saw him.
Yeah.
Because we then cut to, obviously, he commits suicide.
Yeah, he shoots himself.
Yeah.
So it's very sad, that scene.
Very,
don't you
very
think?
sad.
Especially thinking about it, because the last time she could have spent with him, and you don't know whether, because there's so much mystery around him, you don't know why he's committed suicide, and you don't know if the way she tells that story with the voiceover, it's almost like she thinks, oh, if I actually spent time with him that day, maybe he wouldn't have done it.
Might have changed. So, of course, if we run right towards the end, so we have the scene where she is now packing to go south, to go and stay with the family in the south. And it's very much at that point that suddenly the film closes. And it comes to an end. A natural end with a sort of scene where she's closing and she's getting ready to go. And that's it. However, that really wasn't going to be the end of the film.
This is what we were talking about earlier with the background of the production and the special features we watched.
That's correct.
Victor Arise originally planned for the film to be probably twice the length that it is.
That's correct.
And what we see now as the film El Sur was probably the first half of a greater story.
Yeah, and what he said he was trying to do, because at the time the film, when he made it, he'd had funding from Spanish television, and the person that was in charge of sort of commissioning film at that point for Spanish TV had given him a budget to shoot something like, I can't remember the exact figure, something like 80 days of filming to tell the whole narrative of that story, the whole thing. But all of a sudden, halfway through production, just as they were finishing the production in the north, ready to go to the south, which I think was after about 37 days or 38 days, he was suddenly told by his good friend, who was the producer, that effectively their old colleague had left and had been replaced by somebody else who had looked at the budget and said, "Oh, that's enough. We're not paying any more money." So he suddenly had a truncated film. But
and he'd always hoped to go back and do the second half of the film, because he'd written it. It was all planned, and really, like, up until the film was actually being edited in its current form, he still planned to go back and do that. And it was only when, it got sent to
the Cannes Film,
Cannes Film Festival, and the guy that was president of that at the time, he watched it and loved it, and then it got entered in competition at Cannes.
Well, the interesting point about that is, and this is just listening and viewing the DVD, the Blu-ray.
It sounds like we've done so much research.
We haven't. We just liked the film so much that the film was great, and then the story behind the film was just as good.
Oh yeah.
So we got really interested in that. But what had actually happened is, he was really aggrieved, but couldn't say it to his friend, who the producer was a really good friend of his, that production had been cut, and he had this film which really was going to go on to show her journey south to discover and explore the life of her father and what had happened, and in some ways to finish off whatever unfinished business he had from his life. So she was going to complete that journey on his behalf. So he's dissatisfied. He's got half a film. He's thinking, well, I'm not going to bin it. So what he does is he edits it in a way that he's able to complete a film.
Well, because someone tells him, you've actually got the makings of a half decent film, if you actually edit this correctly.
So he edits it and then he puts it out. And it's an immediate success with film critics. They love it. And then with the whole Cannes Film Festival story, he sent it. One of the jury, or the head of the Cannes Film Festival,
I think it's the head of the Cannes
said,
Film
look,
Festival.
you must exhibit this. So he said, oh, you can go on, you can exhibit it. And then on the day of when the night it was going to be shown, he gets a phone call, and it's like, look, where are you? And he said, oh, I'm just at home. What are you doing? I'm just sat here in my, just loafing around, really. And they said, oh, come on, come to the camp. And it took real persuasion. And eventually he sort of more or less got on with the suit. He threw a suit on, got on a plane, and ended up going to the Cannes Film Festival. And it was a huge success. And then everybody's going, oh, what a fantastic film.
Yeah. Which must hurt to him.
Because it's not the film he really wanted to make.
And who knows, he could have made the film he wanted to make. And maybe the second half would have totally derailed what he'd done before. Yeah. It could have turned out to be a really bad film.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's one of those curiosities of the history of film, in that this is not what someone intended to make, and yet it's turned out a great film.
I think what I found interesting with the film, the context and the backstory, and I really love these backstories, because if you look at any major film that's been a success, there's a backstory to how it got made, the trials and tribulations of getting the money, then the original cast that was going to be in the film, and then they dropped out and it got so many rewrites. And what you find out is the film that eventually found its way to the cinema screen could at any point have been a completely different project. It's a very fluid process.
Well, what they say about filmmaking is a film gets made 3 times: in the writing process, in the filming production process, but then again in the editing process. And at any one of those major points, the film can become something totally different.
And I've read time and time again, because as I said, look, foreign film, this is my foray into foreign film, but Hollywood films, the amount of major productions that have become hugely successful. And if you look at the backstory, I remember growing up, like Superman, Christopher Reeves. Well, that wasn't going to be Christopher Reeves, it's going to be Robert Redford or James Caan. And you think, blimey, it just wouldn't have worked.
No.
So yeah, the backstories and the infighting
and this is why I will always champion Blu-rays or home media anyway, is that when you get these films on disc, they come with a wealth of special features that can enrich and enhance.
I think the other thing, well, you've hit, so I'm going to get onto something to finish this podcast. I'm going to get on my soapbox.
Yeah, because we did so well at finishing the last one. It took us about 8 times to actually do it.
9 times. So we're going to finish this. great film. I really enjoyed it. First foray into Spanish film.
Yeah. Are you going to continue your journey in Wilton?
Absolutely, because I've done a French and a German. Done a German, done a Spanish. Might have a look at French the next time. But the backstory to this was just as interesting as the film.
Yeah.
To me. So that was it. Now, while we're talking about film and we've mentioned Blu-rays, the threat to physical media, which is posed by streaming. Because for every streaming company that is very happy to stream and then license the rights, so Netflix, yet again, have been very good at this. Roma, which is a Netflix, made its way onto a Criterion Collection.
Indeed.
And I think The Irishman is coming
to... Marriage Story.
Are coming to Criterion.
And bringing it back to Uncut Gems, it wouldn't surprise me if that was in the Criterion Collection one day.
But now the story's coming out that potentially what's going to happen with our good friends at Disney, and they're not our good friends.
This is all sounding very somber. You're going very like
no, but we're going to lighten up in a second again. But they're really honing in on streaming and the idea that you don't buy anything physical. So there's more and more titles that I think are going to drop out of being on Blu-ray, and you'll end up having to find them on streaming.
Maybe, but I reckon a lot of the films that we're going to be talking about on this podcast, these are not the kind of films that Disney is going to be buying up and putting on Disney Plus. And I think the more the market becomes saturated with these streaming platforms, the less people are going to want to buy into them all. And the market, there's a bubble now. That bubble will burst. And it'll go back to like how vinyl is now. Vinyl is trendy.
Yeah.
People love buying everything on vinyl now.
Well, of course, I'm a man of vinyl. No, not physically a man of vinyl, but I mean a man of vinyl from the 70s.
Yeah.
And you used to talk about DJing, and I was one of the first people to really use the whole beats per minute back in the mid-70s.
Here we go, bringing out the old
I'm going to now
story.
talk about the wonderful world of disco.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And would you believe, because you always tell me the story of when you started DJing, that you were afraid to get on the mic?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I mean, I foretold I was going to say foreclosed. I foretold that speaking to an audience as a DJ would become no. But at the time, I was really nervous of speaking into a mic. As you can tell now, it's been something I've had to work at. Not very successfully. But I couldn't speak into a mic. I hated it. So I used to play record after record after record and sequence them, but not talk. And everybody used to say, why is he not talking? And then literally a year later, everybody started mixing records, and that was it. See, a pioneer yet again.
What were people saying when they would mix these records back in the day?
Get off, mostly to me. What's that man doing up there, and why we've paid good money? Those are most of the things that used to say to me.
Oh gosh.
And when will it all be over?
No, I meant what were you meant to say to the audience, to the crowd? What were people saying? Was it like,
hi everybody, and that's the record of the week from the pop picking, fantastic Boogie Wonderland there from Earth, Wind and Fire.
So it was like being on the radio where you would say the name of the record.
Oh yeah. So what you would do is you talk about what had just played, who it was by, why you really liked it, and then what was coming up.
I couldn't imagine that.
So let's do a segue for a second. So, okay, that's Boogie Wonderland there from Earth, Wind and Fire, and in a minute coming up, we're going to have the brand new single from Tavares.
That just sounds really bad. No, I'm not saying you sound really bad.
I do. I know that.
The concept of being in like a bar or a club and someone shouting that kind of stuff at you just doesn't register.
No, I was shouting it at them.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Well, I should say I wasn't shouting at them because I didn't do that much speaking, but that's what other people do.
I couldn't imagine drinking my mojito and someone just being like,
yeah, it was people trying to
buy this record.
Yeah, the idea was people were trying to entertain along with playing the music.
Yeah. And we're trying to entertain now and doing a terrible job.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you talked about having a mojito. I bet there's people reaching for a drink just at this moment to try and get through the late stages
Oh,
of
no.
this.
Maybe a lethal cocktail.
Hopefully not.
No, please don't.
Anyway, back to this coronavirus.
Oh God, no! Let's
No, let's not get to
we've got
the
to end this thing soon before we just derail it.
We have to.
So I think this has been another good episode.
Well, it has, because it's
We-
managed to get me through 2 films, one
Yeah.
German, one Spanish.
In a way, it's a bit like therapy, isn't it? Because you're releasing your demons,
Yeah, I am.
and
I'm here.
you're saying some of the half appropriate stuff that you're not meant to say
Yeah.
in business.
And there's even more inappropriate stuff that I've got.
No.
But maybe for the next film, we'll do that one.
No, because we want to keep that Netflix sponsorship. You know, they keep that
Well,
in the prize.
Netflix. Oh, I'm a big fan. No, actually, I tell you what, I'm not even bothered about the sponsorship. If they just give us a couple of free months of Netflix, that'll do. Not only for us, but we do pay for Netflix. And that's one thing. We do pay for Netflix of Netflix.
Yeah.
So we're not one of these people that...
But it's split between 50 people.
And they all live in the same house.
Yeah.
Thought it was a bit... But who are those people that are living in our house?
I don't know.
No, but the Netflix subscription, I think they do really good Netflix. And I'm a big supporter of those.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks for listening and viewing.
Thank you so much.
We've been talking about Elsa, which is a great film.
Not yet again, not to do with an ulcer
No.
or Elsa from Frozen.
I mean, that was kind of funny the first time you said it, but...
yeah, and that
anymore.
wasn't even on camera.
No, it was. It was on camera.
Was it?
You said that at the start of this podcast.
Oh.
So you've said it 3 times now.
Do you think the impact is any greater?
No, I mean, no one's listening at this point.
Yeah.
If you're listening at this point, tell us in the comments that you're actually
Yeah,
listening.
please do.
And we'll give you...
We'll come around to your house and we'll clean out your garden. We'll sweep the garden.
Yeah.
Or hoover it up or cut the garden, and we'll wash your car.
I was just going to say we'll give you a shout out on the next episode.
Oh, is that all you were going to offer? So what we need now, somebody in Winnipeg is going to ring us and say, right, well, I'm going to take you up on the offer of the car wash.
Yeah.
So I'll have to fly all the way over, if they'll let me in the country, because remember, they'll have watched this video and I'll have talked about the 5 viruses I've got.
I know. As long as you can go over to the US when there's the Criterion Barnes and
Come
Noble
back
sale,
with a big haul.
which is what I did. I was in Texas
Yeah.
in November.
Yeah.
Came back with... Gosh, I don't even know how... I mean, I spent a lot of money.
You did.
Yeah.
You
Let's
did.
just put it that way.
Yeah.
And it got through customs unscathed. And everything came back in fine condition.
So a bit like, you know, on MTV they do cribs,
Mm.
and people say, hey man, I'm going to show you around my crib. It's the Criterion collection for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This is my crib. We're in my crib right now.
Absolutely.
So,
Okay, well, listen.
That's been episode 2 of My Dad versus World Cinema.
Yeah, episode 3 coming up.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Don't be put off by episode 3. It's got nothing to do with that other episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of that saga.
Okay.
Somebody that walks around in the sky.
This is turning into a saga, isn't it?
It is. So
Yeah.
we'll say good night.
Yeah. It could be daytime. Don't say good night to people.
No, it's good night where we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do we say? Would we say bye bye?
Yeah, we'll just
Au
say...
revoir?
No, let's
No,
not.
in Spanish. What's Spanish for goodbye? See, you don't know. After the money
No.
I paid for your education.
Oh, why am I... Oh, I know this.
That's it. The whole.
This is so
I'm going to
embarrassing.
tell you what. There's a whole contingent of Spanish viewers, both of them, who've now switched off in pure disgust.
Listen, if you think 2 people full stop are listening, not just 2 Spanish people, you've got another thing coming.
Oh,
So
there we go.
we're going to say goodbye.
Yeah, bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you so much. Did you
Um,
see I dressed up tonight? I decided to get done up in a suit.
You've just come straight from work. That's.
Well, God, don't tell them that. They're
I
going to think
mean,
I'm...
this is our job. That's what I mean. You've come straight from
Yeah,
work.
but they're
'cause
going
this
to
is our
think
job.
that... Yeah, oh, okay.
So yeah, if you like this episode, leave us a comment. Let us know what you liked. Don't let us know what you didn't like, because that's probably
because we're very
a lot.
sensitive.
Yeah, we're only doing this for delusion.
Vanity.
Yeah, delusions of grandeur.
Vanity.
Yeah.
This is a vanity project.
Yeah. So we're going to cut it.
That's a great title.
Vanity.
Should have
Project.
called it the Vanity Project.
Oh, but that has nothing to do with world cinema.
I know, but it just sort of...
Okay, right. We're going to do another podcast
Yeah,
unrelated to film
yeah,
called The Vanity Project.
yeah, we'll do that. Because
Yeah.
we're vain.
Yeah.
Well, at least I am, anyhow. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. See you in the next episode.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.